I think the flashiness of the faceless accounts, the AI avatars, like all of that fake stuff is people see it and are already tired of it. And I think the thing that I always come back to is as humans, we want to connect with other humans, especially in this digital age. It's actually becoming more important to connect with other humans in a deeper level.
Hello, everybody. In this episode of Get It Together, I sat down with Fiona Turko, who is currently the creator partnership lead at Gamma. Previously, she held down roles agency side. She has led influencer programs at companies like Jobber and Zapier. And we go really deep into all things creator, influencer, ambassadors, how to measure it, how to talk to your exec team about it, how do you get great results out of it when some companies are struggling to figure it out. She's come to the table with a pretty interesting playbook. Take a listen. I think you'll learn a lot. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Get It Together. Today, I am with Fiona Turko, and I am super excited to have this conversation because we have yet to have a conversation with anybody on all things influencer, creator, and Fiona's background is just that, starting agency side and then moving into owning and running influencer and creator programs with the likes of Jobber, Zapier, and now Gamma. Welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. So I'd love to dive right in. And I always like to understand people's journey a little bit. Let's talk about your start agency side. That's something we share in common, starting agency side and then making the shift. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I think I did agency for a couple years and I was like, I think I'm aging out of this. This is not sustainable. No, it was really fun. I always tell people kind of new in their career or like folks who are in school, like just work at an agency for a year. It's like the fastest way to figure out what you like, what you don't like, and also make like the most amazing network. I went into startups, which is kind of funny, but went into startups and then went into tech, which like I went to school for fashion and for business. So it's kind of like a weird journey that I had, but I always have like a really good gut feeling when I'm interviewing somewhere or looking at a new company. And so I just like trust my gut feeling and it hasn't let me down so far.
Oh, I like that. Let's maybe dig into that a little bit because I know that's certainly something that comes up in a lot of conversations I have. How do you tell? Is this a company I should take a leap with? Is it not? Like what is it that you're listening to when your gut says either yay or nay to a potential opportunity?
I think, yeah, it's about how they treat their team. What is the product? What is like their goal? Like, what are they trying to be? Who are they inspired by? And usually that's enough to tell me like, okay, is this going to be a good fit for me? Like, does it align with my personal values? Is it going to challenge me too? Like, is this the same thing I've always been doing? Or this is like an exciting new thing that I could try? And even if I fail, it's totally fine. But yeah, I usually get a really good gut feeling from that first like recruiter call or LinkedIn DM if it's going to be a good fit. And I don't know, I've just been lucky. I feel like it's worked out for me.
Cool. Awesome. So what led directly into influencer programs, creator programs? Let's talk about that journey a little bit because that's obviously a very emerging space, B2C and B2B. What drove you there?
Yeah, I worked at a startup in Toronto. Actually, it was like a jewelry company. Our biggest competitor at the time was Majuri. We were actually bigger than Majuri, which is kind of funny now because they're huge. But we used to give product to people in the community, like true like influencers. And they would go out and wear the jewelry. And then we would always be amazed at like how many people came in from seeing something on someone. And that was like before Instagram was monetized. We were just like uploading pictures to the grid. There was no Instagram stories. And that was like kind of like my first taste of like how powerful like a true influencer can be, like somebody who's a real like brand advocate for you. And then yeah, it just kind of all happened from there. And then I went into startups that were doing it with like consumer packaged brands and then into tech. So very different from where I started, but the same idea of like, how do you work with your biggest brand advocates and give them the tools to talk about you so that's not coming from the brand, it's coming from people who have a community, who have connections, because people always want recommendations for everything. And so that's the best way, I think, to market yourself.
Yeah. A lot of shifts, agency to in-house, B2C to B2B. One of the probably obvious questions, what have you noticed in terms of B2C versus B2B when it comes to influencer creator programs? Similarities, differences?
I think when I was in B2C, definitely like leaner budgets, just didn't move as fast. Like tech just actually now just like moves so fast. And the risk tolerance, like people want to take risks in tech. Like it's the only way to stand out, cut through the noise. So I don't know, maybe that's like a unique experience for me with like the brands that I've been at, but I find that like tech, yeah, things are just like 1 week is like a month anywhere else. Like just so much happening. Whereas before I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of like slower pace, like pretty chill. We did some cool campaigns, but like no, when you're in tech, you're juggling like multiple campaigns, hundreds or thousands of creators, usually globally too, especially like Gamma, we're a global brand. So we're working with people in all different time zones. It's just very different from working for, a consumer brand or jewelry brand or anything like that.
Interesting. Yeah, I never really thought of it that way, but I can totally see that. That's interesting. That's cool.
Mhm.
Um, Before we dive into, I think the meat of what I want to talk about, which is like, what does this look like as a playbook? Maybe tell folks a little bit about Gamma. I know
Mhm.
a lot of folks are familiar, but for those that maybe aren't.
Yeah, Gamma is an AI presentation tool. So if you're used to Google Slides or PowerPoint, we are the disruptor. So if you're somebody like me who started an agency land where you're responsible for making decks all day with pretty minimal support from the creative team, I don't want to call them out, but that's how it is. They're all busy. Uh, Gamma is like the solution, the unlock to get like all that time back, where you can put in like a super simple prompt. You can copy and paste whatever you need to go in there, and it basically makes the deck for you. And then you have all the control. You can go back and edit. You can change the themes. You can remove things. Like it's so flexible. But also, if you're a visual learner, it's amazing because you're not like basically building a presentation as you're thinking through it. Like if you use Google Slides or PowerPoint, it really is like your best friend when you're building a presentation. And that can be for anything: sales collateral, marketing, creative pitches, brand pitches. If you're a creator pitching your brand to a bigger brand, like if you want to do a sponsorship, like there's so many really cool use cases for Gamma. And yeah, just like also very interesting brand if you've seen any of our, our branding.
Yeah. No, I think it's awesome. I think people should definitely check it out. Where I actually don't know if I'm allowed to say this because I don't know if it's improved internally, but our marketing team's a heavy user. So
Oh,
I'll just throw that out there. Yeah. Hopefully our CTO isn't listening if he hasn't approved yet. Um,
hilarious.
so I'd love to dive into this idea of what this all looks like as a playbook. Maybe let's start uh, just getting a shared kind of understanding of language. So when you think of creator versus influencer versus
Mhm.
ambassador, are they different? Are they the same? Are there nuances? How do you just think about that language?
Yes. Okay. I know it's different for every person that works in this industry, probably. It's probably different company to company too, how you classify those things. But for me, so influencer is somebody who might work with tons of different brands. They might actually have like a 9 to 5. Maybe they're just doing content creation on the side. Whereas a content creator, in my mind, is somebody who's like a full-time content creator. Like they are making videos, they are editing, they might have a team that works with them. It's their full-time gig, and they take it very seriously. And then ambassadors, it's like probably a pretty broad term, but to me, an ambassador is somebody who's already like a heavy user of your product, who's already talking about you organically. So all you have to do is like formalize the partnership in writing and give them like better tools to talk about you. And oftentimes those ambassadors are like your biggest advocates. Like those are the people that you're going to be working with for years and inviting to events. But influencers can become creators, can become ambassadors, can become all of those. I think it's really smart to like tier out your programs and kind of nurture those high value partners and kind of graduate them into the next tier and keep, your high value partners really close to your brand. But yeah, there are definitely differences between the three. And also like there's a lot of creators who have talent managers now who do like a lot of the negotiating for them. Then there's others that just like don't have managers. at all. And the brand just works directly with them, which I think is always preferred.
Right. Cool. So right now at Gamma, are you tiering them using that language, or are you using different language? How do
Not
you do it
yet.
today?
Yeah, we have more of like an influencer program, I would say, where we work with a handful of different agencies from all around the world that help us run basically like an always on kind of influencer program. Something that I would love to do here is like create an ambassador program or like whatever we decide to call it, where it's, a handful of really high value partners who are super invested in Gamma, already using it, deeply understand it. Their audience is already warm to it. Their audience is very much aligned with our ICP. So I think that's kind of like the natural direction of where our program can go because we have volume, we have reach, but I'd love to do something super special for the folks that are just like very invested in us, always talking about us, including us in organic content. Again, like our biggest brand fans. I think they definitely need their own category. And there's definitely partners that we have longer term partnerships with versus like we might work with a handful of creators month to month on content. There's another group of creators that we tap on more often for content because again, they can like show Gamma so easily. We trust them to like represent the brand.
Maybe a silly question around language. You use the word partners a couple times there. Do you
Yeah.
consider these all types of partners? Is partner an umbrella term? Does it have its own unique meaning?
I think I used partner because when I was at Jobber, we said brand partners a lot. Like we didn't want to ever say influencer because it just didn't feel right. Like these were very like blue collar, tradespeople who were influencers on the side. So yeah, we would always just say brand partners because brand partners can be inclusive of endorser, like people who are endorsements, celebrities, ambassadors, influencers, UGC content creators. So I always just think like they're a partner of the brand. So I often will say like brand partners or just partners.
Nice. Awesome. I like that. Where in the org do you sit? Do you sit in marketing? Do you sit in partnerships? Do you sit somewhere else?
Yes, marketing, which is great.
Marketing.
But yeah, we're still pretty small. So I'm sure it could change, it could evolve over time, like most startups. But yeah, no marketing, which is great. We have a really robust marketing team here, which is amazing. And yeah, I think it was the same at Zapier, marketing, community, and also the first team I was on there was like paid marketing, which was really interesting to be separate from community.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. Nice. Let's talk a little bit about recruitment, because again, that's one of the things that seemingly pops up all the time across all partner types,
Mm-hmm.
is just recruitment. How do you think about identifying the right types of influencers, creators, ambassadors, whatever language you want to use? But what does that process look like for you historically? Kind of recruitment and vetting.
Quite manual.
Yeah.
There is no one tool for B2B that can go through everyone's profiles, look for those red flags, those markers that you set out, review engagement, comment sentiment, audience quality. Like there is just no platform that's built for like B2B companies that do that. For beauty brands, for fashion brands, I'm sure it's a lot easier. They often just like want volume. So honestly, a lot of it's like manually going through their socials, looking at the comments. Are they responding? Are they engaging? What types of comments are they getting? Looking to see who they follow and who follows them. Like it's actually quite time consuming. Um, it has gotten better because there's more agencies now that can support with that, like Creator Match, Passion Fruit. Like there's just so many out there that can support and like act as an extension of your team. So they have a deep understanding of who you ultimately want to reach. They can help vet creators with you. But honestly, it's like still quite manual. So I always try to jump on a call with them too. Like if I've gone through all their socials, I've looked at the comments, I'm like looking at the content quality and style. The best thing to do is like always just jump on like a 20, 30-minute call, just directly with them, chat with them, and just get a deeper understanding of how much they know about your brand, how much they know about their own audience, what type of content do they like making, and help like build that relationship is like one of the best things that you can do when you're going through like that full vetting process.
How do you think about maybe what I would call outbound versus inbound? Like everything that you just said to me sounds like outbound, right? You're proactively out there identifying folks, reaching out, booking calls. What about inbound? Would you expect that to be part of your motion? Is it mostly outbound? What have you seen that look like?
It's been a real mix.
Yeah.
So for Gamma, a lot of it is inbound. So a lot of what we're sorting through is like, how good does this look? While also balancing, there's this list of creators that we really want to work with. How do we build relationships with those folks? Or like, when do we find the perfect campaign for them throughout the year to partner with them? And then we have this like always on content engine where if it's like they're more of an influencer, we can work with them anytime for content, but it's like figuring out like where does that person fit in what you're already doing. I think a good example of that was like when I was at Jobber, we worked with kind of like a bigger YouTube creator, and that was very separate from like influencers that we were doing all the time and like very much a one off. And we basically like nurtured that whole relationship, went to his agency, pitched the idea, sold it out to exec, and it was just like a really unique experience. But I think it's always a balance between inbound and outbound. And often, a lot of times, realizing that inbound is like 80, 90% of it is probably not a good fit for your brand. And knowing when to pick out, like, when is it a good fit? Like, when is it worth it to, like, okay, I'm going to jump on this call with this person or this talent manager to figure out if it's actually like a really good fit for both parties.
Cool. You talked about how manual the outbound aspect of it is, and you mentioned no, necessarily real end-to-end tools to support. Are you using anything else though to help you identify enrich data, or is it truly like you are just hitting the channels, seeing who's talking about, in this case, maybe Gamma, vetting kind of outside looking in and then reaching out?
Well, at Gamma, we would definitely work with a handful of agencies that have their own setup for reviewing performance and all of that. I would say though, when I was at Jobber, it was like much more manual. We did use a couple different tools, but nothing ever really stuck because we were so B2B focused. At that time, there was just like no tool really that was perfect. So we'd be using, PartnerStack over here, Aspire over here, and kind of just like bringing it all together month end or quarterly for our reporting. And so, yeah, it's really interesting to see how the space is changing. But I would say like for B2B, like there's still not like that one perfect tool that like brings it all together. Social, top of funnel, all the way to bottom of funnel conversions that we can just like look at as like one source of truth.
One of the other big questions that we oftentimes get when it comes to influencers, creators, these types of brand partners is compensation and how to think about it. What are the various models? Is there a difference between just getting started versus really scaling out? What have you seen in the past? What have you kind of looked at framework wise to help make some of those calls?
I think if you're just starting out, keep it as simple as possible. So like a flat fee and figure out like some kind of flat fee structure. It also depends on like, is your org more focused on bottom of funnel conversions? Like you want to incentivize for people who come in through your creators to become a paid sign up? Or are you just trying to make noise and create that surround sound effect? And you don't care so much about bottom of funnel. Every company cares about bottom of funnel. So I think in most cases, having a flat fee structure with some kind of commission incentive, you're always going to find those creators who are super competitive that see the commission as this like amazing thing that they want to hit every month and they want to get as many referrals in as possible. And then you can also do things like seasonal incentives, like double your bonus if you hit XYZ or double your base pay if you do this. I've seen that work really well. So there's all different ways to approach it, but it's trying to figure out like what makes the most sense for your product, who are the types of folks you're already working with, and also like talk to them. How do they want to be paid? What type of compensation do they value? And taking their feedback to heart, I think is really important versus just like rolling something out and like thinking it's going to work. Like they should be an active part of that conversation as much as possible.
Cool. So hybrid, it sounds like, is where you've seen the most success, the flat fee plus performance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah.
cool. What about the balance between something that you had mentioned earlier, which is kind of always on versus campaign based? How do you think about that?
Oh, always on should always be on. There's many different reasons for that. When you're doing a big campaign, let's say you have these like in H1, you have this big tentpole moment. H2, you have this big tentpole moment. You need to have a roster of people that you can tap on for those big moments that you know of like, okay, we have 8 months of historical data to say like these 5 partners are our top performers. If we put them into this campaign, with X budget, like this, we're going to be able to hit our targets. If you don't have an always on program, you have no historical data to pull that from. And you're just kind of like working with cold partners who maybe don't understand your brand. Like you just have no relationships. You're just starting from ground zero. So having an always on program, always adding new people to it, removing any low performers or folks who just aren't good fits, optimizing that. It just makes your life a million times easier when you have a big cross-functional campaign to plan and marketing comes to you a couple weeks before it launches and says, hey, we need influencers. And you're like, great, okay, I have this perfect group of, 5, 10, 100 people that I think would be really great. Let's like collaborate on like what this would actually look like. You do not want to be starting from zero when you get those requests to like execute an influencer campaign in a couple of weeks and you have like no warm relationships or any data to base your recommendation on.
Oh, I love that. I've never heard anybody articulate it that way, like the importance of always on being the data component of it, like really understanding what's working, what's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah, that lands really well.
Very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. One of the things you said, I'm always curious, how do you fire a partner? How do you talk to somebody who maybe isn't performing where you want them to and politely ask them to exit the program?
I think it's like you said, it's a conversation. Meet with your partners as much as you possibly can. Jump on like a 20-minute coffee chat once a month, bi-monthly, once a quarter, whatever. Like if they're in Australia and that means like the middle of your night, like still have that call. Like nurturing those relationships is so important. And it also gives you a chance to be like, oh, hey, like I saw that post went viral last month, or oh, hey, that post didn't like do as well. Like, what do you think happened? And keeping it as like a constant conversation where they're a part of it so that there are no surprises, good or bad, is really important. And yeah, you definitely don't want to ever have that type of conversation with somebody and have it be like a complete shocker out of nowhere for them. So yeah, having the like a regular call with them, phone calls, Zoom, whatever, texting. Like I text a lot of the creators I've worked with, like it's very casual, WhatsApp, and just like keeping that relationship very open and transparent just pays dividends and just, makes your life as a influencer manager so much easier when you have to have those like more difficult conversations. And also it gives them a moment to be like, hey, I'm off, or hey, I'm going through this personal thing. Like, I don't think I can be in the program right now. Like, can we pause for a couple of months versus like you just coming at them being like, we're not working together anymore. Like they're real people that could be going through something, and just give them like the benefit of the doubt and always give them like a second chance to, I think, to prove to you and the brand that it's a good fit. But yeah, I've definitely had to have like those uncomfortable conversations in the past, and it's not fun.
Kind of sounds like having a team of a few thousand people at any given time.
And having to break up with them sometimes. Yeah.
So that's sort of the compensation piece. And then, derail a little bit into having tough conversations, measuring success. So, how do you do that? I mean, we just talked about potentially having to identify low performers and having tough conversations. What are you typically looking at? What is that based on?
It depends definitely on the org that you're at. Like I mentioned before, some orgs are like very bottom of funnel. Some just want to create noise because it's a super competitive market or niche that they're in. But I would prefer to look at everything as a full funnel. So you're looking at social content performance and trends that you can find there month to month, like what content performs best, like what videos go viral, what's like a great hook that worked really well for the majority of your creators, all the way down to like, bottom of funnel conversions. That's where PartnerStack comes in. I want to see link clicks. I want to see people signing up. I want to see people converting, especially if there's a piece of content that went viral. Like I want to see that connection that they have a qualified audience that's actually interested in trying this tool or this product. Were they able to bring them in and get them signed up? Because that tells like the full picture story versus just looking at like one or the other. And yeah, there's all different kinds of tools that can help you with that. But that's something that I tried to really focus on when I was at Zapier, was setting up performance metrics and like, how do you tell that story? How do you, convince leadership that this is like a worthwhile channel to keep investing in? How do they, people who are so numbers focused, like how do they grasp like, okay, like this is an amazing viral video. Like this is important. Here's why we should keep investing. Here's why we should do more content with this person. Having all of that data to go back on really helps like build the case of like further investment in your program, taking bigger bets or bigger risks, or doing, unique types of campaigns, especially when you're in tech and it's like so competitive and things move so fast. it's very important to have all of that data and understand it deeply so that you can like tell that story up.
How do you have that conversation? So, somebody asks, hey, how are things going? I hear everybody talking about this viral video. How much pipeline, how much revenue did we close? Like, what does that conversation look like, sound like? Do you steer it away from, well, it's not, we're not at the pipeline revenue stage. Here's how we're thinking about it.
Mm.
Here's why it's important. Like, what does that conversation look like to somebody who just kind of cares about, like dollars and cents? What did this deliver?
Yeah, it definitely was like that at Jobber, where we were very much like a sales-led organization, and influencers played a big part of that, of like bringing in qualified leads for our sales team to nurture. So if a video did like really pop off, you'd like see a spike, which was always great. But I think it's more about telling that full story. So anytime you're getting in front of exec or you're presenting, it's really important to look at the whole program holistically in terms of like brand awareness, where you're creating that moat around your brand. And if you're working with like the top 200 creators in your niche and you're nurturing those partnerships, your competitors can't come and take those from you. Like if those partners are equally invested in your brand as you are them, it makes it very difficult for your competitor to come and say, hey, I'm going to offer you XYZ. And that happens all the time. Influencers would come to me and say, hey, like your competitor over here offered me triple the amount, but I'm not going. Like I'm loyal to you. Like those are things that you just can't quantify. So it's very important to tell that full story when you're chatting with exec, when you're making a big pitch, and kind of reframe it for them beyond just like the solid numbers of like pipeline and sales and things like that.
What you just said, I find interesting. So, um, partners sticking and staying loyal.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they?
So many reasons. I think honestly, Jobber is a great example of like a super scrappy program that when I was there, it was just like the three of us. We each had our own roster of partners that we were responsible for. So like I was the face of Jobber for like my 50 creators that I worked with. And that roster would change ever so often, but like it was pretty locked in. And so I was always nurturing that relationship with them, sending them gift baskets if they were sick. Like there's so many different ways to build loyalty, brand trips, paying them fairly, things like commission, and also like doing surveys, like ask for their feedback regularly, give them great merch, give them great experiences, give them opportunities to meet each other and connect in real life. And yeah, it's actually amazing how many brands like don't get that piece. And then they have partners that maybe like aren't super loyal.
I love the gift basket example.
Mhm.
Um, did you at Jobber or anyone else or anywhere else, was that, I guess I'll say, operationalized in any way? And
Yes.
and it was.
Yeah. It wasn't at first, but once you get to like 100 partners, basically when you're onboarding them, you're asking them like, when is your birthday? What size t-shirt do you take? What is your address? Just so that you have that ready for like a birthday. But because you're chatting with them so regularly, if their partner's expecting, you can kind of get a rough date. They can text you, their partner had the baby, like send a gift basket. Or if they miss their post that month because they're sick, like send them a basket. Like a handwritten note also goes so far. But yeah, any details you can gather in like that onboarding process to simplify and have like a great like swag vendor or swag store that can help you with that. Even if somebody's sick, like sending an Uber Eats gift card so that they can order food goes a long way. And just like obviously it feels so personal. Like how many people get that from a brand? Like it's just again, like it's so rare. So it is those like super low cost, low lift things that actually make a big difference because like they're much more thoughtful.
And so did you have a separate budget for this? Yeah.
Yes. Typically, yeah, we'd have like a swag budget or like a gifting budget. It could be, if you're sending holiday gifts or surprise and delights. At Jobber, we would also send every summer, we'd do like a summer basket. So it'd have different theme. Like one year it'd be like grilling, another year it'd be like camping, and we send them like Jobber brand, like really high quality swag. And then it just also turns into organic content, like it turns into UGC. And so yeah, you're just like always finding ways to like surprise and delight and figure out how to make it like easy for your team, especially if you have a lot of partners.
Hmm. Awesome. I love that. I'm gonna shift away from this in a second, but you mentioned all of the tracking,
Mhm.
and there's tools that can help you with that. Any tools that you're comfortable talking about sharing that have been really helpful?
Yeah, when I was at Zapier, we used something called Creator IQ, which is like pretty similar to Aspire, but it was very good at like if you're a only sole person running a program like this where you have so many partners, all of the projects you do are cross-functional. Having something like that that can pull together reports very quickly, like if all you're doing is uploading the link and it's populating all of the metrics for you, it's doing all the reporting with you, you can edit it, and you basically like share out a PDF or dashboard at the end of the campaign or the end of the month. That is very helpful because if you're having to build that all from scratch, like nobody wants to spend their time doing that. Maybe some people do, but I don't. So anything that helps me streamline that process and I can help craft like what the story is, I can record a Loom video going over the reporting. That's like my preference, but also just like keep it very simple. Like try to have one source of truth that you go back to that has like all of your data. And yeah, just like find the one that like works for you and like do all the demos because like there's so many out there. And again, a lot of them are just like not built for tech companies or B2B companies. So a lot of trial and error.
All right, let's talk a little bit about, let's call it enablement and onboarding.
Mhm.
So you've figured out what potential partners look like a good fit. You've figured out this hybrid comp model. You got a pretty good, operation in place to measure it. That creator starts with you, influencer
Mhm.
starts with you. What does that onboarding look like? How do you make sure that they're prepped, ready, they understand the brand, all that?
Yeah. Something that we would do at Jobber that I think is so helpful was like an onboarding like brief, like a 3-page PDF overview of our program, overview of like what we're about. You could even send that to potential creators, but we would typically send it during onboarding just to give them information. But I find like anytime you can send like just like a 1-page brief, bullet points, super easy to scan, very digestible for that like first month, the content that they should be focused on, do's and don'ts, where their custom link is coming from, how PartnerStack works, all of that. Like the more simplified it is in a one doc, it just makes your life so much easier. And anytime we would try to complicate it or add new things in, it would just fall apart. Like these are people who have jobs usually outside of content creation. They have families, they have lives. Like the more simple you can make it for them for their onboarding. So it just feels so seamless to like their first video, the better. And like the faster you can make that too. Like something that we always talked about at Jobber was like, how do we like make this more efficient? How do we optimize this? How do we optimize the onboarding so that instead of it taking 3 weeks from, initial call to first post is actually like a week and a half or 2 weeks so that we can like speed up the entire program and then therefore onboard more people and have a higher quantity of content going out each month. And so we would use a
And is
song.
that, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but is that a metric that you are tracking regularly, like time to first, whatever it might be, first post, first video, first thing that they put out there?
I don't think we're tracking it the same way that we're tracking other metrics, but it's something that I always think about is like you want to keep the relationship warm because there's always this like excitement when you sign on with a new creator. So it's like, how do you keep that excitement going through like the contracting process, the brief process, and keep them really excited leading up to their first video? Because it could be a couple weeks, it could be months. Like there was one contract I did that took 6 months with back and forth with legal teams, and so like you start to lose that excitement as you build into the partnership. And so, yeah, I'm always trying to think about like, how do we expedite this whole process? How do we make it easier for them and also easier for our own team internally? And really just kind of like ride that wave of excitement of like signing a new creator to like that first video. It really makes a difference in the performance too. I've noticed like the faster you can do it and give them a really good onboarding, that first video is just like much higher quality. They just like genuinely sound much more excited.
Oh, interesting. When you get into things like video creation, how much back and forth is there typically in terms of asking for revisions and, you know, all of that fun stuff that comes with creative?
It's very different for each person. It's very different for each platform. I will say though, like having an outline or brief of like how they envision the video to go is very helpful. Like there's definitely some creators that will just send you a video and you're like, oh no, like oh, we need to change, 50 different things, whatever. Getting a script in advance with like an outline is so helpful. And then you can do all of like the heavy editing, suggesting feedback in that stage. Then they go film the video. Like maybe they only have like 1 or 2 edits and it also just like saves both parties so much time. But it really varies on like the creator, their experience, their niche, the platform. Yeah, it really varies. I've seen it all.
It sounds like you would suggest, if you can, try to get some upfront outline, kind of agree to,
Yes.
generally what this is going to look like versus just, okay, cool, let
Yeah.
me know when you're done and hopefully it turns out.
Even if they can record a quick video of like, here's my idea, like just verbally tell me that idea, I can watch that video and like comment back or like reply back, like, okay, this is great. Here's like something I would fine tune, or this is like something that actually like we would prefer you not to say or not to show. But there needs to be some kind of communication before the actual like video is delivered. Yeah.
Awesome. Is video the most common sort of medium folks are using?
It really depends on the platform. So definitely, of course, for Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, but LinkedIn is like really the rising star right now. I'm sure you know as well for like thought leadership, content creators, and typically what works best on LinkedIn. I mean, as of today, February 3rd, it's static posts, it's like written content, it's carousels, and it's not video. So each platform is quite unique, but LinkedIn definitely has a lot of like creators who are new to content creation, who are just posting a lot of like thought leadership content. And it's just like basic text. And that honestly performs really well. It's like how people want to consume content right now. Also, we're probably inundated with like video content from every other platform on our computer or on our phone. So actually like reading something feels really nice on LinkedIn and being able to like have great like in-depth discussions in the comments. So yeah, it's a real mix, but that's why I love LinkedIn. It's like a little bit different from the other platforms.
That's really cool to hear. And I say that because, in regards to LinkedIn, I think everywhere you turn, you still hear people saying like video on LinkedIn, you got to do video.
Yeah,
But we, to your point, like we haven't seen the data kind of back that up.
no one has.
Yeah. So cool to hear you reinforce that.
Yeah, I don't know if LinkedIn will like to hear that, but yeah, they keep telling everybody, creators, brands, optimize for video, and not a single person I've ever spoken to has had. Maybe there's that odd video, like if you're posting 5 posts a week, maybe one of them should be video. Okay, like yeah, but every post should not be video. There's also certain formats, like if you're thinking about paid boosting your paid spend, when it comes to creator content, like there's certain formats on LinkedIn that you cannot boost. It was actually quite limiting. So if you're a creator or if you're a brand building out a program and you're thinking about making LinkedIn a channel, like think about mixing in static posts, carousels, text, and video, and allocating a little bit of spend every month to boosting. So let those posts be organic and run for 2 weeks maybe, and then figure out and look and see like, okay, what's top for it? I'm going to put spend behind this 1 or 2 videos, so we can get more eyeballs on it, and then keep doing the same thing month over month.
I think that's fantastic advice. I love that. Events, getting people in person. How big is that as part of your strategy?
At Gamma, it's pretty big. A lot of the work that we're doing is like, how do you get people in real life to a dinner, to an activation, to a cultural moment? We're doing a dinner, like I'm in San Francisco right now. We're doing a dinner leading up to the Super Bowl, which is very cool. I don't even know if I can say Super Bowl, but we're doing a big dinner before the big event. And so a lot of the work we're doing here is like, because we're such a global company, how do we meet our audience and community and creators where they are? When I was at Zapier, it was like a big test. We did this creator event in Zion National Park where we brought out like a 20 or so creators to these like renovated Airstreams in the park and surrounded by mountains. It was really cool, very cool setting. And that was really about like, let's get the right people here. Let's educate them on the product. Let's bring people together who can network, who have commonalities in tech or AI or automation, and help nurture those relationships. We had the founder Wade there. And so it was a way for them to like get to know each other and also Zapier, the brand in real life. And it's like, we just like won an award for it like last week or something as like best B2B marketing something event. I don't know, who gave it to Zapier, but it like really made waves. It's like, oh, like B2B brands can do cool stuff like Poppy, like Tarte, like all these beauty brands that like do these global trips with creators. Like, hey, we can like do them too. And be like really intentional about like how we do them and who we bring out. And like, yeah, just like making sure it's like very valuable for them because obviously like you're asking them to take time away from their families and their work to join you on a trip. You want to give them as much value as possible. And so, yeah, when I was at Zapier, that was like something that we were starting to test more and more of like, what would this look like as a series? What would this look like if it were to happen like once per quarter? Where would it happen? is it like unique enough for people to, fly from Australia and Japan to come to this thing? And it was like very unique, and we got really good feedback from that activation.
Now, something like that, was that fully owned by your team? Did that start to go cross-functional and you
Very
had
cross
like
functional.
very cross-functional?
Yeah. Yeah. Zapier has a very robust events team. It also was about like, how do we bring in like product marketing? Like if we're doing hackathons and demos, like how do we get the people from our brand who are experts to help educate? And then for me, like bringing in the right creators, like figuring out like what does that guest list look like? What activations do they want to do? Like what would actually be fun and valuable for them? And kind of like curating the event towards them versus like if you were to bring in a group of 20 prospects or existing customers, the actual event might look different for each group. So that's where like the influencer marketer comes in to say like, oh no, like I think this would actually be good for these creators because yeah, you know them best from working with them
Mm-hmm.
every day.
Nice. I love that. Where does this all go wrong? Like where are companies saying, you know what we should do? We should really get into this influencer thing I keep hearing about, and then it doesn't go anywhere. Like where is that falling down? Where doesn't this work?
If it's something that you're turning on and off consistently and you're not nurturing those relationships, it's not going to work. Basically, you're just using it as a paid acquisition channel. But really, I think creators should be an extension of your brand. Like they are some of the best marketers for your brand. Like nobody cares about brand ads anymore. Like people do not trust companies, but they do trust their peers. They are going to think about recommendations that they hear on social media. And if you can nurture those relationships and create, like a group of people who are doing that for you, like that's very, very powerful. But yeah, if you're going and like turning it off every month and then not communicating with that person for a year or 2 years, and then like you wanted to go do a campaign with them again, like it's a very strange way to approach it. And like I do believe in like if you can lock in people to exclusivity so that they're not working with your competitors, like ideally you're working with people who are truly users of your product and who wouldn't want to work with your competitor anyway. Because if they're talking about you 1 week or 1 month and then your competitor the next month, like it ruins their credibility, but also it confuses their audience. So if you can really build a program that's like the always on of like true brand partners and just build on that a little bit every month, it's so much more valuable than just like spending 1 million or 2 million on a campaign and then turning it off right after and you go dark.
I think that's a really, really clean line that, it's not a paid acquisition channel. Like
Yeah.
you got to treat it as an always on sort of brand play.
Yeah.
Um, that lands. I've seen so many B2B companies, some of them are customers, treated as paid acquisition.
Mhm.
Um, and it almost never works.
Yeah.
And if it does work, it's almost accidental more than
Maybe
it's
your product
predictable.
is so good. Yeah.
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 After I did that Zion trip with Zapier, right, you wouldn't believe like the people, like the companies that were in my LinkedIn DMs being like, tell me about this thing that you did. The way that we did it was so scrappy and like, yeah, it was an investment, but like it wasn't terrible, like terribly expensive. And so just the fact that like these companies that have so much more marketing budget hadn't figured it out was like so eye-opening to me of like, oh, this actually is like this really cool, unique thing that we have here that's very special and we should definitely invest more in it because yeah, so and so company over here does not have it figured out. Like that made me feel really good about what we created. Yeah, I can't believe that these big companies had no clue. They had no idea and like didn't know how to get from the program that they have today to like an event like that. And I was only at Zapier for a year and a half. So like I did that in basically like 12 months. So it doesn't take long. Like when you're a product that has a lot of brand fans already, those are the easiest people to activate. That makes the most sense. Like that's the low hanging fruit. Like work with the people who are already advocating for you and you can build a program really fast.
Wow. I like that. We're coming up on time, so I've got a couple more quick ones. We can't leave without talking about AI. What do you see the intersection between AI and creator influencer? And that can go in any direction. That can go in the direction of creators, largely using AI to support their creation. It could be synthetic creators themselves, right? An AI avatar. Like, what are you seeing, or where do you see this all going?
I think the flashiness of like the faceless accounts, the AI avatars, like all of that fake stuff is people see it and are already tired of it. And I think the thing that I always come back to is like, as humans, we want to connect with other humans, especially in this digital age. It's actually becoming more important to connect with other humans in a deeper level. And so when you have people who are authentically talking about your product, which literally could be anything, and advocating for you, to me, that's always so much more powerful than a lot of the AI generated content or AI slop that we see out there. That said, AI for creators to help them grow their brand as like an entrepreneur, a founder, people who can't afford to hire team members or contractors, like that's where the biggest shift is for me of like, you can have an agent help you with like your inbox. You can have Gamma help you pitch brands. Like you can use Claude or ChatGPT as a thought partner, as a sounding board. Like if you don't have those types of people in your life where you can afford to hire people for that, that's like the biggest thing that AI can change for you and like really accelerate your career as a creator and just like give you like really helpful advice, especially if you're using Claude or ChatGPT as like a thought partner for content creation, for pitching. Like there's just so many different ways that a creator can use those tools. So yeah, that's like the biggest shift that I've seen in the past like 5 years.
And, it's moving so fast, but I think everything you just said, I think lands quite well. Maybe last question here. So B2B companies, we're in 2026. A lot of people are thinking about influencer programs, creator programs. What is one way to get started without necessarily having to invest way ahead of impact, if that makes sense? Yeah.
Find your community, your heavy users, identify them and gift them your product, bring them to your office, do a dinner, like find some way, send swag to them to activate them. And that's like the low hanging fruit is like find the people who are already so excited to talk about you to their peers, people who are already referring you business, and just like make it slightly more official, give them something, show how you appreciate them, and just start to build that over time.
Awesome. Fiona, thank you so much.
Thank you.
How can people get in touch with you if they have any questions?
LinkedIn DM, but it might take me a while to respond.
I think that's a very fair expectation to set. Awesome. Well, thank you. Enjoy the festivities around, and I think we can say Super Bowl. I mean, if I were to get a cease and desist from the NFL, I think that would be
that'd be
my
cool.
proudest moment. Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for listening to Get It Together. If you want more resources to help you build and scale your partnership program, be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app. And get more proven tips and tools at partnerstack.com/getittogether.